Hello, everyone. It's Eric, your lovely commissioner. Welcome back to another great season of fantasy football in the 2QB Zags and Friends League. As you can see, our draft is a mere 18 days away. That's like a week and a half, and I'm going to be on vacation for the next week. So I figured that now is a better time than ever to get the draft order established. Obviously, we're kind of limited by the fact that we're in about 20 different cities between the 10 of us. So what I've come up with is something online to use that just kind of randomizes things. I know that isn't as fun, but I figured for those of you who are looking for fun in these sorts of things, I can make like a nice little video here. And as we determine the draft order, we can talk about what happened last season and maybe what this person is looking to accomplish this year, which is obviously for all of us to win the Fantasy Football League. So what we're going to use is I have the sticky note right here. It's going to keep track of our draft order. And what we have right here is just kind of a random wheel to spin that's just going to completely randomize things. We're not going to use the order to decide who gets to pick what pick. It's just going to be first picture that comes up is the 10th pick, and then we'll eliminate you, and then the next one's the 9th pick, and we'll just go on that from the end until we're at the end. Along the way, we'll go ahead and do a little mini review of how each team did in the previous year, just to make things a little bit fun. But before we get started, let's go ahead and have a reminder as to what happened last season. So this is the way the final standings turned out after the playoffs. You'll remember, as I've said in the league manager note, that Riley actually barely snuck into the playoffs here with a 6-7 record, but he ended up going all the way to the end and winning the entire thing against Austin, who is the perennial powerhouse the entire year last year, but his team wasn't quite enough at the end of the day. So this was our order from last year, and as you can see, this is also the order that I put everyone's names in. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll spin for the 10th draft pick. Here we go. All right, so coming in with the 10th draft pick is going to be yours truly. It's going to be me, so that's how you know this isn't rigged, that I got the last draft pick. So we'll go ahead and just enter that in right there. We'll go ahead and delete my picture. And so let's go ahead and take a look at how I did last year. So we'll go ahead and go to my team. So here's my team from last year. As you can see, I thought I was rocking really well with the QBs with Russell Wilson and Tom Brady, but they ended up being the 9th and 14th overall in the QB category, so I was really struggling there. Most of the year I was doing really well. You know, I had DeAndre Hopkins, was one of the better wide receivers in the league. I ended up picking up James Conner a day before the season started and putting him in there. Obviously, you had Melvin Gordon and Leonard Fournette. But as you can see, by the end of it, I had to start Sony Michel and Marlon Mack in my starting running backs because of injury. And that is certainly, as the kids like to say, not ideal. Same thing happened with my wide receiver. Doug Baldwin just never got things going, which is why he retired eventually. I had to have Chris Godwin start in the wide receiver spot. Cameron Brate started in tight end. I didn't even have a second option at tight end. Things were just a mess for me by the end of the season. So it's unfortunate that I ended up losing my way out of the playoffs down to 6th place, but it is what it is. All right, so we'll go back up. We'll spin the wheel again. All right, coming in at number 9 is one of our married to be people, Suzanne. Go ahead and remove her picture here. All right, let's go take a look at how Suzanne did last year. So Suzanne, by the end of it, finished 5th, just with a 7-6 record. She kind of snuck into the playoffs there at the end. She was really benefited by having Ezekiel Elliott last year. We'll see if he even comes back this year. But as you can see from the rest of her lineup, nothing really standing out too well. She was forced to start Nick Foles by the end of the season. Even had Jeff Driscoll on her lineup. That's abysmal. One of her better people had to have been Evan Ingram, who really took off last year. And James White was obviously a surprising running back coming in at the 8th overall last year. So we'll see how she does this year. All right. Spin again for the 8th spot. Oh, coming in at number 8 is our favorite mirror selfie taker, Jake Deeney. Go ahead and get him out of there. Let's go take a look at how he did last year. I skipped over him. There he is. So Jake ended up taking third at the end of the day, just beating out Owen in the third-fourth match, as you can see here. Jake was really killing it on the QB game last year, having the 5th and 7th overall QBs. Antonio Brown, 4th overall. Robert Woods was one of the surprises from last year. Damian Williams, one of the later bloomers of last year, too. So you can see that Jake really, and Mike Evans here at the end, my goodness. So you can see Jake really took off at the end of the season. It doesn't seem like he really, outside of Damian Williams at the end, Terry Cohen coming in at number 13. But other than that, it doesn't seem like his team was all that impressive. However, you have to be doing something right to have a 10-3 record at the end of the day. So we'll see if he can equate that, get that success again next year. We'll spin the wheel again. All right, the second half, the worst half, if you ask me, of the soon-to-be married couple is Hayden. He comes in at number 7. We'll go ahead and take a look at Hayden, always one of the stronger contenders year after year. However, last year wasn't this greatest year in the world, finishing at 4-9, 7th overall. Really was riding the young QB game, riding Baker Mayfield and Mitchell Trubisky. Things just did not work. He really bet on. He had Devontae Adams kind of carrying him all year. Amari Cooper came in after he was traded to Dallas, but that Rob Gronkowski really wasn't doing him any favors. Really struggled for a bit last year. As you can see, he was even having Jared Cook on his roster. He finished in a better slot than Rob Gronkowski did. Also, having 2 kickers on your team, probably not the best option in the world. So, if I remember correctly, last year, Hayden waited until very, very late to take his QBs. We'll see if he's learned a little bit from that after going 4-9 throughout this season. All right, we'll go ahead and spin the wheel again. We're looking for our 6th draft spot. And it looks like we're coming up with, our favorite Krispy Kreme connoisseur, Austin Hunter. Go ahead and slow down at 6. I was talking to Austin today. He said he was. We're not spinning that yet. We're not doing that yet. Just ignore that. I was talking to Austin today, and he wanted me to put him in position to draft Patty Mahomes. So I hope that's a good slot for you there. It's 6th overall, Austin. Go ahead and load up his squad here. As you can remember, last year I gave him the worst grade coming out of the draft, and he came out and scored something like an average of 160 points per game through the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Obviously driven by this man right here, Patrick Kermit the Frog Mahomes. He was stellar. It pains me to say this because he's on my rival NFL franchise. Tyreek Hill was a great stack. George Hill, obviously one of the better tight ends last year and came at a great value because most people drafted him pretty late. Alvin Kamara carried him the whole time. Joe Mixon was a lot better than the RB2 that he was drafted at. He did suffer from some injury problems, as you can see. A.J. Green, a perennial IR person, and Jordan Reed, same thing for him, always on the IR. But it's kind of hard to say anything bad about him until the end when he couldn't pull through against Riley. I mean, 129 points is nothing to scoff at, but Riley was just too much of a powerhouse at the end of the day. So Austin just missed out on his first championship and let Riley repeat. So we'll see if Austin can mimic that success this year. We're going to ignore that because I accidentally spun it. So we'll go ahead and spin it again. Now y'all are going to yell at me because it was on my dad, and now it's going to go to something else. All right, coming in at 5th place, it's Ty Schoenwald. Just a few days ago, Ty celebrated 4 years of being married to Ashley. That's impressive at people our age. Let's go ahead and load up Ty's team here. Get out of here. Previous version of Windows. All right, Ty struggled a little bit last year, coming in at 3-10. He actually had one of the better QB combos in the league last year. If you can believe his record in a 2-quarterback league usually is highly contingent on how well your quarterbacks are doing. The 2 and 3 overall. Then you take a look at everything else, and he was starting both Tevin Coleman and Ito Smith, 2 running backs on the same team. Jordan Howard as well. Odell Beckham Jr. had his struggles last year. Tyler Boyd obviously ended up at IR by the end of it. Just look at this. Just look at this. Ty was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people on IR by the end of the season. As you know, as they say, you just hate to see it. There's not really much more to add to that. So hopefully Ty has a little bit better luck when it comes to injuries this year. Hopefully for him, I should say. All right, we're getting into the top 4 here. Coming in at number 4, it's our favorite shirtless fireman, Riley McGinnis. Oh, as we've been talking about, Riley is our reigning champion, the first repeat champion in the history of this 2QB league. See if we can load you up here. He was really riding the success of Lamar Jackson towards the end of the season and Josh Allen. These guys were just. I read something the other day that said that Josh Allen was the highest scoring QB in weeks 13 through 17 of the NFL season last year, and really carried what's his name? carried Riley at the end of the game there. Obviously ignoring week 17 because we don't play week 17, but 28 points, 18 points, 19 points, 11 points in the championship week. It was still enough to give Riley the win. David Johnson, mostly not great last year, still finished as RB10. Mark Ingram's RB29 was kind of facilitated by the fact that he was suspended for the first 4 games. But then you get into the rest of his roster. You have Mike Thomas, Adam Thielen, Zach Ertz, Juju Smith-Schuster, all at the top of their game. So they all, except for Adam Thielen, I know because I had him in another league, really doing well at the end of the season, just enough to get Riley into the playoffs and allow him to capture that championship. So the rest of us are going to try and hold Riley back this year. All right, we're into the top 3. Ooh, yep, and it's going to stop on Alex. Is it? Yep, there it is. Just stopped on Alex there. Alex recently, speaking of anniversaries, like I was with Ty, just celebrated his 1-year anniversary with Lisa. Very exciting stuff. Let's pull up how he did last year. Well, unfortunately, wasn't great for Alex last year. Finished 10th out of 10. Let's see what happened. Saquon Barkley, obviously great. Everyone else, we're going to go ahead and throw in a big ol' yikes. Philip Lindsay ended the year on IR. Probably just shut him down because Broncos were going nowhere. There's really not much to say other than that. Things just really sucked for him at the end of the day. Jimmy Graham not doing what you wanted him to do. Owning 2 different Tampa Bay wide receivers, not ideal. So Alex really looking for a bounce back year this year. We'll see if he can find it. All right, this will determine the last 2 spots. Who will get the number 1 overall pick? Well, the number 2 pick is going to my dad, going to Wayne. And that leaves Owen picking number 1 overall. I feel like this has happened before. Look at this beautiful picture of Owen. Anyway, all right. Let's get over to my dad's team. A tough year for the Cohans last year. Even though I made the playoffs, I would say pretty handily. A 9th and 10th place spot for my dad and for Alex, respectively. My dad had some of the better players in the league last year. Christian McCaffrey obviously crushed it. Sean Watson obviously crushing it. Eric Ebron, kind of a surprise. But then you start taking a look at the rest of his roster. He was forced to go to Demaryius Thomas, who eventually ended up tearing his Achilles and going on IR. His flex spot, Doug Martin as a starting running back, not ideal. Owning 2 separate Atlanta wide receivers, not ideal. Obviously, Julio Jones being on IR at the end of last year. Just never really got it going. You could see he kind of had a great game at the end there to keep himself out of the cellar. But other than that, I'm going to be looking for a little bit of better year this year, and the number 2 overall pick is going to certainly be helpful. Coming into the home stretch here, let's take a look at Owen. Owen, sneaking into the playoffs at 7-6, ended up finishing 4th overall. Always helps when you have Aaron Rodgers. Always helps when you have the number 1 overall tight end in Travis Kelce. C.J. Anderson was obviously a great running back at the end of last year with Todd Gurley going down to injury. Adrian Peterson was great all year last year. Darius Geis going down with his ACL tear in the beginning of the year. So Owen really had things figured out there. So we'll see if he can put things together and get back to the playoffs this year. I'm running out of time because this free program I downloaded only allows me 15 minutes of recorded video. So remember, Tuesday, September 3rd at 7 p.m. Hoping to have a good draft, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We'll take one more look at the draft order as we head on out here. Thanks, everyone.